Hi, welcome to Bible Time with Aunt Kat, where we talk about real people and real things we read about in God's Word, the Bible. And all of God's Word is true because God cannot lie. In our last lesson, we talked about Mary and how she went to visit her relative Elizabeth after she learned she was expecting a baby. Not just any baby, but Jesus. I can imagine Mary, still a very young woman, walking along the road to see Elizabeth, unsure of what lay ahead, and I can also imagine her quietly reminding herself of God's promises. I can imagine her thinking about the words from the Psalms, words that told her where her help truly came from. And one of those Psalms is Psalm 121. Psalm 121 is called a song of ascents. Ascents means to climb a mountain or a hill. These were songs God's people would sing as they traveled on their way to Jerusalem, which sat on a hill. Listen carefully to these words. I will lift up my eyes to the hills. From where does my help come? My help comes from the Lord who made heaven and earth. The psalmist looks up not because the hills can help him, but to remind himself of who made the hills. His help doesn't come from the road ahead. It doesn't come from his own strength. His help comes from the Lord, the one who made heaven and earth. The psalmist goes on to say that he who keeps you will not slumber. Behold, he who keeps Israel will neither slumber nor sleep. God never sleeps. He never looks away, and he never stops watching over his people. Whether we're going out or coming in, whether we feel strong or unsure, the Lord is our keeper. Now, I want to show you something. I'm going to move this over. And I've got something here that I want you to see. Like that. Sometimes when we're worried or unsure, we tend to look down, don't we? We look down. We look down at the road ahead, or we look down at our feet, and we don't pay attention to anything else. We just look down when we're worried. That's what that word says, worry. But Psalm 121 says, it begins by saying, I lift up my eyes. And the hills themselves don't help us. No, they can't help us, but the one who made them can. The hills can't hear us. They can't protect us, but when we look up, we remember who made them. And we remember that he made us. We remember that he'll always protect us. He'll always be there for us. And our help doesn't come from what we can see around us. It comes from God in heaven, who made heaven and earth. That's where our help comes from. And that's why we don't have anything to worry about. We have no need to worry at all. When I was a child, I would often go outside and watch the sunset behind the hills at our home. And as I watched, I would quietly say those first two verses to myself until I learned them perfectly. Later, I learned the next few verses and the next until I could say the whole song. And even today, when I feel sad or afraid or lonely or unsure, those words come back to me in my mind, and they comfort me, and they remind me where my help comes from. And I hope they'll be a comfort to you too. So those first two verses are going to be our memory verse today. And I'm going to say them to you again, and then we're going to sing them. I will lift up my eyes unto the hills. Where does my help come from? My help comes from the Lord who made heaven and earth. And we're going to sing it to the tune of Mary Had a Little Lamb. Drink of water first. I will lift up my eyes to the hills. From where does my help come? My help comes from the Lord who made heaven and earth. Psalm 121, verse 1 and 2. Let's sing it again. I will lift up my eyes to the hills. From where does my help come? My help comes from the Lord who made heaven and earth. Psalm 121, verse 1 and 2. Now, here's something you can try together as a family this week. Choose a quiet moment together and take turns reading or saying one verse of Psalm 121. You might repeat the same verse a few times until you know it, and then switch places and say it again. Little by little, let God's word settle into your hearts, just as it has done for God's people for a very, very long time. You know, all creation shows God's power and care, just like we learned in the first lesson when we talked about Kirby watching the sunset. The hills, the sky, the sun, the stars, all his creation shows his power and care. But we are able to do something special. We can remember, and we can speak God's word, and we can trust the one who never sleeps. This lesson is part of our Made to Praise Bible Time series. Come back next week for more of Bible Time with Aunt Kat. And don't forget to make your own Bible time every day.